There have been some very famous people who've died of that malady,
Absolutely, sure.
and it's a pretty painful process. I mean,
Right.
really,
Right.
pretty horrible.
Now, typically, to be clear, a one-time shot usually doesn't do it. This is typically something that we have to do over the course of a year, maybe 2 years, of doing these infusions with your own stem cells every 3 months. That's typically how we do it right now. And that
So it's a
seems to be-
protocol.
It's incredibly effective. Not just rheumatoid arthritis, but you think about all the autoimmune conditions. Lupus, erythematosus, Sjogren's,
Crohn's disease?
Crohn's disease is going to have that. Irritable bowel is kind of in that category as well. These are all things, multiple sclerosis, of course, is another big one. So these are all conditions that are showing positive effect with infusing your own stem cells. You know, it's such a vast contrast to what's happening today, currently, if you just go through the normal medical routine.
So, Doc, the challenge in researching this is that there are a lot of people out there making false promises. There's some charlatans out there. How do our viewers avoid running into those people?
That's a great question, because there is a lot of fanfare out there right now with stem cell, because there are so many of these clinics popping up all across the country. Physicians wanting to jump into this pool of stem cell therapy because it's incredibly lucrative, or it can be if you've got a real busy office seeing a lot of folks, okay? There is no insurance for it. Unfortunately, at this time, there's no insurance for stem cell therapy. So this brings up an important point, and that is, where do you get your stem cells from? Okay, so we get our stem cells from your own body. That's how it's done. That is stem cell therapy. That's appropriate way of using stem cell therapy, is pulling the stem cells from your own body and then using them to help your own body. What we're seeing pop up now is that we've got groups that are doing what are called afterbirth products, umbilical cord stem cells. What else? We've got amniotic tissue, placental tissues. Now those tissues, umbilical cord, the placenta, the amniotic sac, yes, these do have stem cells in it. But now we're talking about a donor, okay? And that is not being tested. Meaning if you go to an office where they said, we're gonna use these really young afterbirth, baby stem cells, which are extremely active and have a lot of youth and energy. Well, that's true. However, there's a problem with the logistics, meaning first of all, we're not being tested if you're a match for these cells, which they say that they're immune privileged. Well, to some degree, yes, but not entirely.
I mean, that makes more sense to use my own stem cells.
Sure it does.
Because they're a perfect match.
Right.
I'm not going to have a rejection of my own cells.
Okay, but to do that procedure, you've got to have a lot of things in place. You've got to have the lab necessary to do it. You've got to have the physicians who are skilled at being able to do that type of a procedure. The liposuction that's necessary, the IV, all the equipment that you need in order to perform that is quite an investment. It's a lot easier route to simply go buy amniotic stem cells on the market. There are some biotech companies that are happy to sell it to you for cheap. And you can set up a clinic on a roadside office and say you're promoting stem cell therapy, when in fact, there are no cells left in those products, unfortunately.
So they are really, they're charlatans. I mean, they're promising you something they can't
They
deliver.
are promising something they can't deliver. It's just not possible. From bedside, no bacteria, no fungus, no parasites, no viruses, all these things, to that processing, to cryo-freezing it, to thawing it back out, and then drawing it up in a needle and going into somebody's knee. By the time you get to that point, there are no live cells left in that concoction. They're dead.
And good people are paying money to these companies for something that's not going to work.
Unfortunately. And that's a growing number of people who are going to be dissatisfied and say, well, I tried stem cell therapy, it didn't work for me. That's unfortunate, because they really didn't get an opportunity to do stem cell therapy.